here to make a video of Squareology's Simultaneous. I'm going to try to find all of his games that he's playing. I think he's playing 5 games, and let me get them located on here. There's got 3 of them. Let's see. He was supposed to play 5 games. Give me a moment here to scroll down the list. Okay, I've got 3 so far. Okay, APSD, Suvel. Okay, I just see 3 games now, so let's just take a quick look, and I'll keep looking for more. All right, in this game we have a Nimzovich defense. Not much else is going on yet. They're still in the book. This is a an attempt to play the Danish Gambit, I guess. It transposes into a Nimzovich defense. Interesting. He's meeting 2 Nimzovich defenses. I guess I have an influence playing the Nimzovich defense in this group. People know it. What's happening here? Here we have another Danish Gambit. Declined. Okay, so now that's 3 games, and we'll come back and look at those. Just a minute, I want to make sure I got all the games. He's supposed to play 5 games. Hopefully the guys that signed up showed up. If they didn't show up, you don't get to play. Okay, yeah, I think one person he's playing wasn't even on the list. So, it happens when I give my samples. We sign you up in advance. We expect you to be here. And if you're not here or not on our friends list, oh, there's one with versus Jet Fighter. Okay, there's another one. That guy showed up. I guess one way to do it is sort these by time, because they're all 1510. It takes a while to do it. Let's see. While we're letting it sort, let's look through this game. Okay, we have a King's Gambit, a Falkbeer counter gambit. This is an interesting line to take on F4. It's not supposed to be good, but it throws white off. I've used it before. Okay, so let's see. It's not doing a good job of sorting the games. I'm supposed to have 5 games here. It's not sorting them like it should. Let me the option. There we go. The option to sort by time is, maybe I can sort by rating. Maybe that'll get it. What's his rating? 1788. That's probably going to take a long time. I see 4 games at this time control. So somebody missed a game, unless another one comes up. Anyway, hi folks. They're chatting to me. I didn't record. I'm not recording the chat room part, just the board. Somebody says this game got aborted, and okay. Here, White's lost. Let's not talk about all that. Let's get back on the game. Somebody got his game aborted. He probably didn't move in time. Okay, once I didn't move in time. But anyway, next time. White has lost castling privileges here. How did this happen? Well, as I was saying, this opening is kind of tricky and can throw White off. See, Bishop D3. The idea is point towards the king side on an H7, but if that's a square that's defended, we just went forward. And now White moved the king. Well, sometimes White does move the king in the King's Gambit, but the drawback with it is that the rook on H1 won't get into play. Let's take a look at this game here. Okay, this is a classic Nimzovich defense. Black should have comfortable equality here. He's got open diagonals for both of his bishops. I've had this position as Black many times. If knight c3, bishop pins on b4, and then often bishop d2, bishop takes c3, bishop takes e3, e4, and then the knight can go to e5, and Black can play knight takes e5, and after d takes e5, bishop e6, guarding the queen. And Black has usually achieves comfortable equality in that line. I've had people try c4 here, and then black has a happy choice. He can play bishop b4 check or queen e4 check directly. I think bishop b4 check is the appropriate move. These are played at a time control of 15:10, so they're going to go pretty quick, and I want to try to make some useful comments as I can. Here we've got a classic Danish declined, Goring Gambit declined type position. There's a few differences in it. It looks like black's managed to get developed pretty quick here. Why is that? Let's see. A lot of times in the Scotch game, Goring Gambit, knight f3 comes in first before d4, e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, d4, e takes d4, then c3, and black will play d5. It looks like this is going to transpose into it, except white has delayed playing knight f3. Does that make a difference in the position? That's interesting. White has the isolated queen pawn, but that's not a problem. You always get, when you have an isolated queen pawn, you have a lot of active piece play for that, and often in this type of position, black may have to part with the bishop pair. In other words, the knight on c3 is not attacking the queen on d5 because it's pinned, but at some point white's king will get to safety castling, breaking the pin, and black may be parting with the bishop. So this is kind of an interesting thing here. Let's look around a little bit. Jet Fighter had his game here, the one where he lost castling privileges. Black has a pawn down on this 7th or 6th rank. How did that happen? Let's see. It looks like there's an exchange on e3 of some kind. Did he give up? Oh, no, okay, the knight comes in, and white is forced to take, otherwise he's getting forked. And now, one drawback with the white or black position here. Look at these pieces here; they're all in their original square. Black, in effect, has two pieces developed: the bishop on d6, and it's under fire, and the rook on e8. White, on the other hand, he does have 3 pieces developed, but it's not clear to see how effective they are for him. This bishop is hitting on d3 is hitting a nice square on h7, but white doesn't have anything in the area to help it out. So it's for white to get his rooks connected. At some point, you consider moves like king g3 and king g2, but you might run into bishop h3 check, driving the king over to g1, bearing that rook further on e1. Now here, white's inviting black to make a weakness of some kind in his position, either with pawn h6 or g6. It's kind of difficult to see how white's going to get untangled here, but at the same time, black doesn't have a lot of development. So the next several moves are critical. Both sides need to make their moves count, or they can run into some trouble here. Okay, now knight e4, putting a pin on the knight. White can cover this. Queen c2, perhaps. One drawback with rook c1, you have to make sure that the a pawn doesn't fall. If there's a capture, removing the knight on c3, which is defending this. But just like I say, queen c2 seems to do the trick. Now white's not threatening queen takes c4 check because nothing is guarding the queen. This knight on c3 is a pinned piece. Okay, let's take a look at this game. Okay, this looks pretty even. White can play queen e2 and offer a draw, if anything. But let's see what happened here. It seems like maybe let's see. A lot of times white tries to take with the pawn, as I was explaining earlier, and hold on to it. And but black always has resources. If pawn takes, you play queen takes queen check, and the king gives up castling privileges. F2 becomes weak, and the black can develop his bishop with tempo on it. So let's see what happened here. Knight takes. Here I think black made a mistake. Black should just let the pawn sit on e5 and take on d1. So queen takes d1, king takes d1, and then develop bishop e3. This forces white to make some kind of a weakness in his position. Even if he plays f4, his pawns are getting advanced. He's a pawn up, but black's getting a lot of development. Black can then throw bishop g4 check in, and if bishop e2, black will castle queenside, and suddenly all the black pieces are springing to life. You don't worry about the pawn. You come and collect it later. Taking the pawn is okay, but it's kind of like just good for an even game. Now it's possible this queen on e5 could end up becoming a target, and black could have sacrificed a pawn comfortably in this position, and chose not to. Okay, let's take a look at here. What's happening in this game? Let's see. Oh, this was the Nimzovich, the other variation of Nimzovich. Black should equalize in this. I'm familiar with this line as black. I don't play it, but it's hard for white to get anywhere against it. The modern masters prefer to play it this way. I think knight f3 is the preferable move because it develops a piece, but f4 is a little tricky, and if you're playing this as black, you do have to know it. But what can I say? Don't really know all the theory because I don't play it. The only drawback in the white position that I see at this moment is the potential weakness on the diagonal of a7 to g1 that could prohibit white from castling. Let's see how it transposes in the next couple moves. Okay, there, that bishop does come to that square, so white can't castle. Now g6 doesn't make sense. What's black doing? What black needs to do is develop. Okay, black needs to if castle kingside is perfectly safe, or play d6 so that this bishop can develop, and then maybe put the bishop on g4. Move the queen up to d7, and even consider castling queenside. Either one's a logical plan. g6 just creates weaknesses in the black position, h6 and f6. It didn't develop anything. Now his knight's a little bit under fire. Does white have an alternative plan? Well, white can't develop on the by castling. White's alternative is maybe to play queen e2, bishop e2, and castle short, or castle long rather. Now this is forcing white to take care of f2, which can be done with knight e4, which attacks the bishop, and then white can, if the bishop makes a mistake and drops back to b6, I think h3 kicks the knight, and then white's able to plunk a knight in on f6 with check, disrupting the black castling privilege. So this is one of the reasons why g6 just wasn't a wise move. Okay, let's take a look at this game. There, as I mentioned earlier, eventually that queen's going to have to vacate d5, or black will have to part with the bishop here because the white king will castle. Here one bishop got off the board, so white won't have two bishops. He might have bishop and knight versus bishop, or the black queen will relocate and keep white with an isolated pawn on d4. And let's see the missing moves since I last discussed it. Let's see, knight came in, queen c2, okay, bishop f5, which kind of looks menacing. Maybe black has got some ideas like knight g3, attacking the queen and menacing the rook on h1, but white parries that with bishop d3 to break the discovered idea. This is how black got one set of bishops off the board. But now white will retake with the queen, and black has to commit with his queen what to do. Either take the knight, unisolating the pawn on d4 and ceding the bishop pair, or finding a new home for the queen. Okay, what's happening over here? Well, look at this. How did this? I had said that white had made an attack and didn't have much to do with it. Nothing else to back it up, but all of a sudden something got in there. Let's see. Queen. Okay, so he did create that weakness. I was thinking h6 might be a little wiser, but it's blitz chess. We can't expect everything. Now the knight comes in. Again, in this position, black. Whoop! When you move, it takes us forward. See. Let's go back. What I'm trying to say is, in this position, black didn't have any queenside development yet. He's got to get these pieces developed, and in the game, white's got some pressure on f7. I don't know if a knight sacrifice would be good, because the king will always find some shelter on the dark squares. White can get a messing check or two in, but so the p-sac is probably not good. Plus, black has interposition possibilities with bishop e6. black has enough dark square defenders, but white can still put some pressure on him, and I'm not sure how he did it, so let's just back up. How we reached this position, let's try to find out. Okay, what got captured on c5? A knight. Okay, well this is interesting. Oh, it's a discovered attack on the knight on g4. Okay, so let's see. We missed one move. Black did develop. Now, white probably doesn't want to... let's back up. I don't know, maybe that sound I heard... anyway, trying to figure out how we get... Wow, that's going all the way back. Well, I'm trying to cover this game here. Maybe it's just my rookie hands on these things. Okay, so there was a discovered attack. I was trying to say that white doesn't want to take on d7 and develop the black bishop, but at the same time this knight is menaced. Okay, black won that game. We'll find out how in a minute. Okay, knight goes to... I'm trying to find a different plan for black here. I mean for white, since his knight's protected by this pawn, but it could just be a case of white's premature attacking, but he didn't have anything. Again, I was saying this rook's just horribly out of play. The only way I can see to try to get into play is to play h4, h5. This is an idea, and it invites black to weaken his pawns further. Who knows, maybe then there would become a sacrifice on g6 with due preparation. There's always a lot of plans you can start thinking of, and then in a long game you sit down and you put these ICs together and analyze and spend 5-10 minutes on the position and solve it. Well, in a blitz game you can't. You got to react on instinct. But that's the purpose. You play some blitz here and there to train fear over the board. It looks like this game ended here too. Oh yeah, unfortunately, looks like black dropped his queen. So right when I was saying black had to commit to what to do with the queen, he forgot it. Well, you know what? I've done this in blitz many times myself. I've forgotten that the pin is no longer there, and down goes my queen. So what I was saying about this position kind of holds true. White could get the bishop pair if black cedes, or black has to find a home for his queen and keep this pawn isolated. Let's consider queen h5 just for the sake of argument. This protects against a possible queen f5 check. I'm not saying, well, no, the knight covers that, but the knight may not always be on d6. But queen h5 is kind of thematic. Sometimes in center counters, the queen goes to a5, and this variation of the Nimzovich, well, it's not, or the Danish declined, is similar in some respects to the Danish gambit and some variations of the Nimzovich defense. They all have a lot of similar qualities, so the queen will end up the black queen will end up on a lot of squares. Little tongue twister there. And even queen f5 is possible in this position, just offering white an exchange. I kind of like that because that improves if white trades. He doesn't have to trade, but if white trades, this improves the position of the knight. The knight is now black's saying, I'm going to get the bishop pair and give you 3 pawn islands. I don't care if I unisolate your pawn, I'm going to give you 3 pawn islands. So black should probably be okay with correct play. And I guess one other game is over. Well, this one, no, we covered that one. No, there's 2 games over. There's still 2 going. Let's just take a look at which 2 they are and come back. This one's had some fireworks on it. Wow, they're moving quick. Well, white's running out of time here. There's that knight got into f6. I was talking about that. Let's see what happened. He did play answered knight g4 with knight e4, but unfortunately black dropped a piece. Ouch. You know, it happens in blitz chess. Now the knight comes back, and there's threats on still on the dark squares, and now he removes the defender of f6. Whoops, went a little too quick there. Well, I didn't go quick. They just made moves. Every time they make moves, it brings the position up to date. I'm trying to show what happened. Well, I'll have to come back to this one. I think that one's going to end quick because well, you'll see when we get back to it. Okay, well, black's in trouble in that game. This one's a little more interesting, and would like to make it the focus because it will be the last game. Apparently, one game was aborted. I'm not sure if one side didn't move on time. That unfortunately happens. But here, Black's got his development. I was saying he had a way to play for an advantage. He's definitely got some boardroom. If anything, let me come back to that and try and catch up on this. Okay, White's just up a piece, and one thing, Black is playing too quick. Okay, he's got 14 minutes on his clock. His opponent has 49 seconds. Nope, there goes some more material. Ouch! Now he's down a rook. When you play a master and he's giving using a time control like 15-10 in 5 games, divide both sides by 3. That means he's playing basically a 3-minute game with about a 2-second increment, and you have 15 and 10. Well, he won the game, and Black just played too quick because he still has most of his time on the clock. He basically lived off his increment a little bit of his time, and if you're watch the video from the beginning, and you can see the times. I wasn't making comments about the times because it doesn't. The only evidence will be on the recording. Now there's no time stamping, but here Castling just dropped a piece. That's unfortunate. But I still think Black played too quickly here. But he's just getting a bad game. Now White just starts trading pieces, continues his development. Gee, thanks. Let's trade queens. Everything comes off the board. White's going to win. And there's a free pawn, and more trades. Let's go attack something, and then a spy check. Doesn't really lead to anything. And out of the frying pan into the fire. Okay, the rook was. If it sits there, it gets taken. If it moves, it gets taken. It just got taken. So unfortunately, just game over. Now he walks into mate. Okay, so far he's got a 3-0 score. It's an excellent job. This is, let's go back and talk about this game here. I was saying that I think Black missed a chance to trade on D1. I think that would have been much better. And I said this kind of led to equality, but the last I looked at it, White was kind of cramped. Okay, so now develop a piece, threaten mate. White's got to deal with that. Okay, if F4, that can create a weakness on A7 G1 diagonal. If G3, it can create a number of weaknesses. Maybe this Black's doing okay out of this. Let's see. G3 creates a weakness on the A1 H8 or A8 H1 diagonal. How do you? And one other drawback with F4 is that it shuts in the mobility of this bishop. Although it's not exactly clear how White's going to do this. So let's just come back here and talk about this position. It's hard to make a judgment in a blitz game, but sometimes you can rely on instinct. One thing White can do in this position, which is probably a lot of people wouldn't want to do, is just play Queen E2. Okay, what does Queen E2 do? Well, it says if okay, you've equalized. Let me just get the advantage of the first move out of it. That's all. So what Black does is play Queen takes E2 check, and after Bishop E2, you have a near symmetrical position. The only difference being White has a bishop on E2, Black hasn't developed his yet, and the position of these remaining knights. Okay, and White has the advantage of the first move. It's very, very level, and this allows White some comfort to continue with his plan. And strategically, ideally, outplay his opponent in the endgame. Now, Queen E2, Queen takes, Bishop takes. Black can develop on C5 or F5 with tempo on this pawn, but White can cover that easily enough with C3, and even if White doesn't want to do it. Probably doesn't want to play Bishop D3. C4 is a possible move, but it might invite more exchanges with Bishop B4 check. The game would be about even, but it seems to me like here, as a result of just castling, and I think I did mention something about try to end up exploiting this queen on E5. That's probably what White wants to do, and that's what I would certainly want to do. I mean, in this position, I wouldn't want to play queen e2 and trade queens, but I'm just thinking maybe it's the best idea. You got to get out of check. If bishop e3, queen takes b2 could be annoying. So, you know, maybe it's a position where you have to just suck it up and play bishop e2, or recognize that in this position of the Nimzovich that you need to learn some analysis, more analysis on the opening, and go into a line like knight c3. Although it's easy, even if you don't know or do know this, it's hard to remember so many lines because the Nimzovich is a rare opening that's employed. It's worth much more than its reputation. It's an excellent resource for black. Okay. Anyway, so like I say, this castling is that premature because it gives black this idea to go threaten mate. Okay, black's not threatening to do anything white should really worry about. Okay, for the moment, white is stopping black from castling queenside. Okay, but at the same time, black could be threatening rook d8, and this queen doesn't have a whole lot of room to maneuver, and you have to walk into a pin. So, what if instead of castling, white plays c3? Now the idea of this is you want to answer rook d8 with either a queen a4 check or queen c2, and queen c2 might be prudent simply because the queen shouldn't. It could get bothered by bishop f5, but then you have counter queen b3. You want to try to stay near this bishop. I mean, this is a tricky position. I'm sure what he does is okay. It just seems like black is getting somewhere here because white has to weaken his position. Now, black is actually heading development. Black has three It's back up. Okay. Yep, back up again. Okay. It happens to anybody here. It just brings you up to date on the position. Okay. It's an eager chess server, we'll say. It likes to show you what's happening right now. Newsflash, you know. We don't care you're commenting on the game 5 moves ago. We want to see what's happening now. Okay. Anyway, trying to give some sense and logic to this game. Okay, so white creates a weakness here, and black just develops. Trying to get some commentary now. Why does he choose d2? Probably to cover f3. And see, they're updated again. Okay, so then black castles queenside, which is certainly interesting. It puts a pin on the potential pin on the knight on d2. Look at that. Updated again. Well, I'll catch up. Okay, you can't hold me down for long. I will get caught up here. Okay, back again. Oop, back again. Oop. Well, we'll get caught up here. Okay, so pins. So here he creates some left for the queen. Left, air. Okay. A little pressure on f5. Black's pieces are looking real good here. So there it goes again. Guys, slow down. You have time on your clock. I'm trying to catch up here. Of course, they can't hear me. Bishop c5. Let's see, is this where c3, bishop c5? Okay, here he spends the time to go queen e. It happens. I've seen it happen to the best of us, okay, or the worst of us. Okay, bishop c5. He went queen e1, kind of abandoning the idea of bringing the queen out on that diagonal, but it did break the pin. And every time I'm close to finishing saying what I want to say, they move. Slow down, guys. I know you can't hear me. Okay, bishop h3. It seems to win the exchange at first glance because the rook is trapped. But then that's one of the drawbacks of making this g3 move. It created that weakness in the white position. How does white get out of this? Knight c4. Okay, now attacks the queen. The queen backs up. Now the king runs. And there's a spite check. Now he picks it up. So, slow down, guys. It looks like black has just won the exchange unless white can generate anything of it. So, I'm still not where I want to be. Queen takes f1. Now, gentlemen, you're too fast. Okay, I'll get caught up here eventually. Okay, queen f1, develops the rook, brings the bishop out. I don't know if white has enough. Black is probably clearly better here. But it's a blitz game. Anything can happen. Now black's getting his knight back in the game, and but it's pinned for what it's worth. Now suddenly the white pieces have sprung to life. So one advantage of giving up material is that finally the pieces have gotten activated. So what can white try to do here? Okay, he's played knight e3. This has several ideas behind it. For what it's worth, put the bishop here. Okay, now it might be trying to lure the black rook to d2. Something to think about. Does white have a useful discovery? I'm not sure. It does hang this pawn directly. Can black take it and survive? Possibly. Let's see. Queen takes a2, bishop c4. Now you're forking after this pawn. We didn't play it. Okay, now what about a pin? No, the pin's no good because knight takes e3 attacks the queen. So black's wanting to make exchanges. White shouldn't be so generous. But c3 is also under some pressure, and the bishop on g5 is under some pressure. So it looks like white's going to have to acquiesce to some kind of an exchange here. Okay. There he took on there. Now black has a choice. Do I want to take his bishop or knight? He chose to take the bishop. Okay, now white has only a knight compensation for the rook, and his knight is loose. Where's the knight going to go? Ooh. Knight doesn't have a good square. Knight f4 is going to cause him to get some double pawns, and then a penetration of rook e2. Looks like black's going to win this. Well done. How do I say that name? Excision. I imagine 99 out of 100 people would not pronounce that correctly. You'll have to tell us someday. Make your own video. Okay. That knight on d4 is loose. Okay, c4. Play c4. Yeah, see? Read my mind. Okay. So that was probably the only other logical move. Now there c3 comes in. That was going to happen. Oh, f4. A little counterplay. Trying to create a square to vacate the knight to. Can black get away with just taking the knight? Pawn takes knight, pawn takes bishop, pawn takes pawn. Pass pawn, advance pass pawn. The one saving thing for white might be to try to get a tactic because the lineup of the bishop and the king and the queen of blacks on the c8 h3 diagonal. Can white generate kind of a pin? Now that's an interesting move. Bishop h4 saying double. I want your pawns doubled, and I think white just plays knight c3 here. Although, I'd sure like to get away with some kind of position where you can do a tactic like bishop g4, but he can't. Okay, that's interesting. f5 attacks the queen. If queen e4 check, though, queen e4 check was okay because bishop f3 might be met by queen takes f5. There's all kinds of crazy possibilities. You're close to knight e7 check working, but not quite. Okay, let's see. Now the knight goes to f4. The question is f5 hanging? Well, black doesn't care about it. He says, I'm just going to pressure your pieces. And, that's a good thing. You don't always have to collect pawns when they're sitting there. Often it's our feeling that we see a free pawn, we'll take it now. Well, there's no hurry. Sometimes you can, sometimes there is, but sometimes you can just say, I'll collect it later. I'll improve my position first and take the pawn under my terms, not yours. And just leave your opponent wondering what happened, So this is interesting. The knight's gone out of play. It's attacking that bishop. It's a little out of play. How's white going to get it active? It had come from f4. G1 is awful slow, trying to get it back into play. Maybe it's going to find a way to get back to f4 at the right time. So what's weak in the white position? Looks like the pawns are covered now. Maybe somehow try to break open the position with b5, and he read my mind. He plays it right there. This invites black to open up some lines around his king, although white doesn't have any dark squared pressure here. He's okay on the light squares. He's got firepower there, but the knight, oh look, outpost d5. White's gained some ground back here. I think he has to play queen takes f5 here, because once that knight gets to d5, it's there for the duration. White has a lot of compensation with that knight on d5. So queen takes f5. Is there a tactical refutation to it? Okay. How about queen g1, breaking the pin and threatening to play knight d5? Although this is interesting. White's saying I'm gonna occupy d5, and really there's not much black can do about it. He's gonna get in there. So an interesting choice. Well, queen g1 didn't attack c5. The black queen's protecting it. So we'll go with this move. This improves the position of the bishop. Now, which piece do you want on d5? I would opt for the knight just out of natural circumstances. But having the bishop there has some value too, because the bishop is pointed at g2. Now it's not clear exactly how white's going to utilize that bishop. But look at that outpost, bang. Now, unfortunately, it cost white a pawn to do this. But, sometimes you have to give up a little bit to get something. And unfortunately, white's playing an exchange down. Now, black in turn has a great outpost for his bishop, but at least white's got some activity. Remember when that knight was sitting over in h3? I was saying, where is his prospects? Well, it happened because black weakened his position on the king side with c5. And that just opened up the hole. Now, looking at the time, white has 1:11, black has 2 minutes, so they basically have a 10-second increment. White's surviving. White's doing okay. He's doing the best he can here. Now the queen's stopping black from getting on the e file. Black would have liked to have done that. Maybe he should have done that and just allowed white to trade, because white's not going to trade that nice knight. Let's look at this position for a second. Can black just play rook e8 here and get on the file? Okay, let's try to look at that again. Can black play rook e8 and get on the file? He doesn't care if white trades off the knight, okay? But sometimes we think, I can't give up the bishop. Well, it's attrition. Let's try and catch up here. So white got on the open file. Black opposed it. And that's good. He says, trade my queen. I don't care about the pawn weakness. I'll get, and that'll drive your knight out of your nice outpost. So good reply by black. Now, yeah, but bang, black's on the open file. See? But where's black threatening to go on the open file? E1? That might allow, there might be some nuisance value with queen f4 check, but because the king certainly can't move. He's going to get smothered, mated, or mated on c7. But unfortunately, black would have bishop e5. There's the check anyway, so white's hoping for a miracle. Bishop e5, queen e5, either one seemed to work. Let's see. Bishop e5 allows white to play queen, okay, e3, but queen e5, white can't trade queen, so I would go queen d2 with the idea queen a7. Although this is good. This threatens queen d7. And that stops queen takes d7 and secures g7. So where does the white queen go? h5, yeah. Okay, h5 threatens h7, but not much, and going to f7. So what do you do as black here? You can't play queen f6, queen e7, or queen c7. See, there's that pesky knight on d5. He's covering all these squares black would like to put his queen. Well, he can't put it on c7. That'd drop the rook. He can't put it on f6. Here's an interesting idea. g6, and if queen takes h7, bring the rook over, but I don't know. Looks like white can survive, or black can survive that. Well, needless to say, play queen e6. That stops the queen from coming into f7. What else can white do now? Got to get this bishop somehow activated in the game, and it's not certain where it's going to go. D5 is the only option, but then where do we get the knight to? Okay, maybe white needs to just grab this pawn and hope for the best. Okay, yeah, see, boom, read my mind. Now, what can black do? Can he get away with queen f1, or e1? The idea being to check on one of these two squares. Okay, I don't know. White's collected a pawn back. Black tries to open up the position. Now, maybe white should just take it. I don't know. If you take it with the knight, now c4 hangs. That's what he did. Boom, see? Read my mind. Now, b7 could be a problem if white can get his queen on it. And it's not clear how he does that. I would think a candidate move would be to attack the rook. Let's see, look, there it is, queen g6. Gentlemen, you're reading my minds. Now, always have to worry about when black plays for mate. That threatens a mate in one on queen f1, but it might leave black vulnerable to some stuff down here with queen d6 over this check comes in. Now the natural thing to ask is, does this check lead to anything? And he did it. Okay, if king up is black's out of checks. He can steal another pawn, but he's got to watch out for queen d6. So that stopped queen d6, and but white can still play. No, he can't play queen f7. He can play queen e4. That threatens mate. Okay, he did. Now that's an interesting move. Queen f7 seems to be forced now, unless I'm missing something. How else are you going to guard b7? Okay, queen f7. Good. Now, how do you continue this as white? Well, advance your pawn majority. But black looks like he's consolidating, and that's just a natural move. Okay, what's weak in the black position? c5, go attack it. How? Where? There you go, queen f5 attacks it. Okay. Pins the bishop for what it's worth. It's a tricky game. Looking at the time, ooh, look at that. Queen's under duress. So queen d3, with the idea queen d6 check. I'm trying anything here. Queen h7 with the idea queen h8 check. Possible candidate moves. We want to put the queen somewhere. Queen d3, that's the move I would probably play. Queen d3. See, there it is, queen d3. Okay, what's black do? b6 is a solidifying move, but then it weakens a8. Now that's good. You have a passed pawn, run it. But white gets a check. Does that check lead to anything? Probably not. But it makes black think where to put the king. It doesn't have to. What about queen check down here on f8? And if queen comes back, you check again. Then you bring the knight into play. Queen f8 check. See, boom. Now black's got to get out of check. Queen f8 appears forced. Well, bishop d8, queen d8 are possibilities. Yeah, queen d8 might do it. Queen d8. Now, can't trade queens, so put the queen back on f7 and threaten mate on b7. Right? Right? Yep, there you did it. Okay. Now, if black is so giving, we can draw the game. But he also has rook e7 here. Then the c4 pawn falls. White's made a little progress. It's a very interesting game. Even though black's up in material, white's got some activity. White's created some play out of this. And now queen takes c4. Just collect a pawn at a time. The world isn't going to open up to you. You take what you can get. So grab the pawn on c4. There he did. Okay, now he's only down the exchange. Okay, remember he's down the exchange in a pawn? And now he's only down the exchange. So now white's got to find a way to get the rest of his pieces in. Looks like black can trade queens, though. Queen c8 check. He missed it. Okay. Wow. It's easy to miss these things. Queen c8 check forces a queen trade. And then the best white can do is try to advance these pawns in a hurry and get some counterplay there. So black missed the queen trade. Okay. Anyway. White's got to be happy with the draw. Naturally, white wants to win, but sometimes you try to win these games when you can't. and it leads to trouble. But now the knight's active. He's back into d5. Okay, black had rid white of that outpost, but now it's back. And the rook's under heat. Unfortunately, white doesn't have a good check here. e5's covered. Maybe, well, that's interesting. b6, trying to mix things up. I was going to suggest king h3 and somehow get those pawns active. Well, now, this is interesting. That pawn on b6 can cripple black if he's not careful. Okay, the black king can be pressured from a lot of ways. The c7 square is no longer accessible for black to put a queen or a rook on to defend the position. So let's see. Yeah, naturally, just go back on the 7th rank. Now the idea is to move the knight somewhere if it can to open up an attack on b7. But it looks like black has a resource though. Rook takes b6. Okay, so white's got some activity, but he just doesn't quite have enough yet for the exchange. He's except nuisance value. It's very easy for either side to make a blunder here. Now, who's going to make the blunder? More likely the 1773 player, not the international master. The international master is quick on tactics, and there's a lot of comments going on. I didn't record them. They mentioned here, wow, why didn't he force the queen trade? I'll go back and read some of these. I'm making a video of this. Anyway, so people know. We got the queens off. I missed that. Okay, so now black should win, but white's got nuisance value. The fact is he can get a passed pawn here in a hurry, and that's what he's trying for. Black has a passed pawn. How far can it get up the board? It's got a clear path in there. He runs it. So white, at some point, white's going to have to drop back to stop that pawn, and white still has to mobilize his pawns. So the white knight can get to b4 and a2. Now he makes a preparation move so he can advance his pawns. Brings his king closer. Now a4 could be met by knight b4 at some point. It's going to have to be met by something. Something's going to have to drop back because that pawn it's got a clear path. White's going to have to stop it. See, there it goes. Now you either play bishop a2 or knight b4 here, or surrender the game. Okay, knight b4. That's now b6 is weak. Black could stop and collect that, but then he's got to watch out for white generating some. We're able to watch it. Okay. Message me. Look. Let's see. Here, how do you go? Join my video lessons group in my profile. You will see it in the group. I think the IM may be making a video as well. Okay, so what's happened here? White's is trying to run his pawns. What's that knight now? Okay, white can guard that knight with bishop e6. The question is, are the white pawns menacing? The answer is they could be. They could be. But anyway, I can't break away from this screen or I'll destroy the thing. I would put up a link as to where this video will be. Just join my video lessons group. My group is 11th largest. I can't even spell largest group on site. Easy to find and lots of videos. Anyway, White's making some progress here. He's got the blockade. I said blockade that pawn. It got as far as it could. He's got to watch tricks like rook e5 check. Might do it in this position because there's nothing defending the rook. I mean the bishop on e6. I think yeah, well, he was in check. He had to get out of check. Had to play king d5, I guess. Let's see. Rook e2 check. King must go to d5 because I think rook e5 ends it. What am I missing? The king has to get a check and nothing's there to hold the bishop. And there it is. In my simuls, black one, okay, yeah. In my simuls, sure, join my group. Okay. Anyway, it was a good game by black. A valiant try by white to come back. It got very entertaining. It's good tension for both sides, and I want to thank everyone for taking the time. There was one outstanding game. The guy's trying to play it. JM Paul is asking if we can play the one game. Somehow his game got aborted, which is unfortunate. But these simuls are fun. They're good challenge for everybody. But the video is going to last an hour right now. I think if they play another game, I'll just make a new video of it. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to look at this video. I hope it was instructional. That's what we're trying to do. Squareology makes videos too. He's an excellent commentator. I've seen him. Your chess will improve if you watch the videos he makes. Okay, I can't state that enough. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to share everything I know about chess. Those of you that know me already know that. And we won't get everything right every time, but for everything we miss, we hope you find what's wrong with it, because that shows you're getting better. And for everything we do show, we hope that that's something that you learn from and you become better, because when you get better, you're going to help make us better. Okay? So, anyway, I thank you so much for this, and I'll get it uploaded soon, and thanks for your time.